Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Kopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Thiravana-chari Yamuna Thiravana-chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Thiravana-chari Yamuna Thiravana-chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Prabhupada ki jai. Country Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Eighth Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 22. Bali Maharaj surrenders his life, text 27. Please repeat after me. Mana, Stamba, Nimittanam, Janmadinam Samantataha Sarva Shaya Pratipanam Hanta Muyen Na Matparaha Manastamba Nimittanam Janmadinam Samantataha Sarvashraya Pratipanam Hantamuyen Matparaha Manastamba Nimittanam Janmadinam Samantataha Sarvashraya Pratipanam Hantamuyen Namatparaha Manastamba Nimittanam Janmadinam Samantataha Sarvashraya Pratipanam Hantamuyen Namatparaha Any online reciters?
Manastamba nimittanam Jalmadinam samantataha Sarvashreya pratipanam Hantamuhyena matparaha
Manastamba nimittanam Janmadinam samantataha Sarvashraya pratipanam Hantamuyen namatparaha.
All right. Mana of false prestige. Stamba because of this impudence. Nimittanam, which are the causes? 1 second. Janma adinam, such as birth in a high family. Samantataha, taken together. Sarvashreyaha, for the supreme benefit of life. Pratipanam, which are impediments. Hanta, also. Muyet, becomes bewildered. Na, not. Matparaha, my pure devotee. Okay, translation. Although aristocratic birth and other such opulences are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they are causes of false prestige and pride, these opulences never disturb a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Devotees like Dhruva Maharaj, who was given unlimited material opulence, have the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once Kuvera wanted to give Dhruva Maharaj a benediction, but although Dhruva Maharaj could have asked him for any amount of material opulence, he instead begged Kuvera that he might continue his devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee is fixed in his devotional service, there is no need for the Lord to deprive him of his material opulences. The Supreme Personality of Godhead never takes away material opulences achieved because of devotional service, although he sometimes takes away opulences achieved by pious activities. He does this to make a devotee prideless or put him in a better position in devotional service. If a special devotee is meant for preaching, but does not give up his family life or material opulences to take to the service of the Lord surely takes away his material opulences and establishes him in devotional service. Thus the pure devotee becomes fully engaged in propagating Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shlaka Chakshulanmaditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhakam Kritavachalam Pangam Langate Girim Yakipatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Diditaranam Vancha Kapadubhishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. Although aristocratic birth and other such opulences are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they are causes of false prestige and pride, these opulences never disturb a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's amazing how deep desires go. I could say go within our heart. It's really amazing. Devotees have brought up a case in which there was a man who was doing some type of meditation, some type of Buddhist meditation or impersonal type of meditation in the forest for many years, and then some tourists come by and they play some kind of cheap pop boy-girl love story type of music. He hears it from the radio, he hears it playing on the radio, and then just he becomes emotional and starts to cry and gives up his meditation and goes out to try to find real love in the material world. After many years, it's quite interesting how deep the desires go. And there's so many cases like this throughout religious history or history in general. You also, I remember when we think about brahmacharya and Krishna consciousness, not just into brahmacharya, but brahmacharya and Krishna consciousness, practicing, living a life of purity while practicing Krishna consciousness, for men not having any close, intimate association with women. It's amazing how much someone may want brahmacharya and simultaneously not want it. Or you could say how much they want it, but how difficult it may be for them, how deep the desires go. I mean, Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. He mentions that what is the cause of anyone remember the verse? The cause of unwillingly, almost unwillingly by force, engaging in sinful activity. You know that one? Either, yeah. Yeah, by what is one compelled to engage in sinful activity, even though it seems like unwillingly, by force? Yeah. And then Krishna gives the answer. It's the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world, lust. So it's amazing because someone really may want to be they merely may enjoy, you could say, the benefits of brahmacharya. Like somebody at the Sunday feast, they were telling me, last Sunday feast, somehow they talked about life of sannyas. They're like, yeah, it seems so liberating. And it's true. It is liberating. Brahmacharya is also liberating. It's as Srivada Prabhu is mentioning, it's a liberating experience in Krishna consciousness. So someone may enjoy the benefits of the brahmacharya ashram, and many devotees who depart from the brahmacharya ashram later on, they always talk about, many of them I've heard, how those were the best days of their lives, liberating days. That's what they say. But even though someone may really want that, it's amazing how challenging it could be. I remember there was one devotee here. He wasn't initiated. He was a bhakta in the brahmacharya ashram here many years ago. He later got initiated and he continued in his Krishna consciousness. But he was on traveling Sankirtan, and somehow or other he was in the same city that his old girlfriend used to be in. And he was distributing books at some big concert, this and that, and she was nearby that concert. So, somehow he became attracted, and he came back to the temple, I remember, after that Sankirtan trip, and I remember him clearing out his stuff from one of the rooms in the brahmacharya ashram. We used to have those big shelves that we retired, those cubbies. So he's clearing out all his stuff, and he was clearly suffering from my perception, and I think everybody's perception. I think his perception too. He was clearly suffering and struggling and having a really hard time, practically crying, removing all of his stuff from the brahmacharya ashram to go move in with this girl. That was where he was going, his old girlfriend, with the idea that maybe she'll take the Krishna consciousness and this and that. She never did. And eventually they split, and then luckily he continued with his Krishna consciousness. But he was having a good time in the ashram. He was enjoying the benefits, but just couldn't. Of course, you have, going further back in history, a famous case of our dear Bilvamangala Thakur. As a young man, was very attached to a woman, and he one night was going to see her, and it was raining and storm, and the boatmen were all saying, "No way, we're not taking you. Figure it out yourself, buddy." So he did. He crossed the river. In some case, he latched onto a dead corpse crossing the river, and then climbed up the wall, fell down. So he got to her house, knocked on the door. He's soaking wet, all scraped up, and then she says something to him. "Oh, if you had as much devotion or determination to see me as, if you had that for Krishna, then you'd be a pure devotee of Krishna. So she was obviously a bit of a pious prostitute, if you want to say that. She had Krishna in her mind. So, and then that just sparked something in his consciousness. He said, you know what, she's right. And then he just went to Vrindavan, packed up his things and walked to Vrindavan. But while he was walking to Vrindavan, he wanted Krishna. He was going for Krishna. He wasn't going for this or that or so many things. He made up his mind. He gave up his dear Chintamani, the woman he was extremely attached to, prostitute he was extremely attached to. He gave her up and he was moving to Vrindavan by foot. Difficult. Sometimes we think it's difficult to hop on a plane. And, I mean, maybe it's questionable what's more difficult, plane or by foot. But walking by foot, and then somehow he sees this woman and becomes attracted to her. He had that determination to be Krishna conscious, to go to Vrindavan. This is it, I'm going to Vrindavan. But still, on the way to Vrindavan, he became attracted to this beautiful woman. And mind you, the women back then were, anyways, but so he became attracted and followed her to her house, wherever she was. He didn't know where she was going, but eventually she went to her house, so he followed her. And there was another man there, and the woman was saying to her husband, oh, this man's following me, this and that. And then the man asked, so what do you want? And he said, oh, I would like to be with your wife. And somehow or other, that man agreed to that. And she also agreed to that. So while he was in the room, bedroom, this woman comes in, and then he's thinking to himself, I'm going to Vrindavan, I'm going to see Krishna, and now I'm in this situation. This is just terrible. So he says, oh, my dear lady, can you please give me the hairpin, your hairpin in your hair? So she hands it to him, and then what does he do after that, Sureshwara? You remember what he does? Takes out his eyes. He gouges out his eyeballs. So you can imagine the scene, pretty intense. And then, so he gives up that idea of seeing her. Now, this isn't a suggestion on my part, nor is it a suggestion from the story that one should do that. But the principle, he's got 2 pens, he's ready. Mukunda's ready. But the principle is, one should do something radical. If one is having trouble with this or with that or so many different things, obstacles in Krishna consciousness, there could be so many obstacles. It's not just lust as people generally think about it, but there's so many obstacles one could have. There's a long list. So one should do something radical. It means radically chant Hare Krishna, radically do service, radically take advantage of days such as Ekadashi and festival days, radically serve the devotees, radically preach. Do something radical in the sense that something that will drive away or give us a higher taste, drive away these desires, give us a higher taste. So that was his radical thing to do. They talk about that in the Bible too. So he goes to Vrindavan, he makes it to Vrindavan, and he becomes a wonderful, pure devotee of Krishna. He's blind, but Krishna would appear to him and he would see him by his spiritual vision, and he wrote so many wonderful books. He came before Lord Chaitanya, so Lord Chaitanya would relish the books of Bilal Mangala Thakur. So in this way, we see how even though one may engage in Krishna consciousness, engage in the process of Krishna consciousness, but we see that how deep desires can go. Here in this purport, this verse and purport, is talking about money, material opulence. So that desire could go very, very deep, the desire for material opulence. And a whole other number of desires can go very deep. So we have to be very careful in this world. The mind is very delicate. The mind can be easily swayed, easily deviated. Srila Prabhupada, one time, one of his disciples were reading, I think it was Time magazine on the airplane. And then Srila Prabhupada looked at the disciple and said, the faces you're looking at, those people are so sinful. He said, just by looking at their faces, you become contaminated. He said, better not look at their faces. Just that. I mean, Time magazine, some politicians' faces or whatever. You become contaminated. So it's a world where our minds are very delicate, and there's, even if you yourself do not do things to create impressions on your mind, naturally living in the world to be impressions created. I mean, generally people, they create bad impressions in their mind due to their activities, and there's bad impressions due to the environment. Both are going on. But as far as possible, the idea is we want to subject our minds to the pure things of Krishna consciousness. For example, we're seeing the deities every day. Why are we seeing the deities every day? It's elevating, it's purifying. You see materialistic people's faces, it's not elevating, it's not purifying. People's minds, people's minds that are attached to all types of sinful activities, and because of their minds are attached to all sinful activities, are engaged in all types of sinful activities. So practically speaking, from the very pores of these people's bodies is oozing material desire, lust, anger, greed. So seeing such people, that energy affects us. So therefore we're seeing the deities every day. We're chanting Hare Krishna every day to counteract that, to protect ourselves from that. Devotees who go out and distribute books every day, they need to protect themselves. That's why there's a strong morning program. That's why they have a strong, but everybody actually, whether book distributor or not book distributor, everybody needs to protect themselves from just interacting with people, hearing them. Because the mind's very delicate, so whatever our minds are subjected to, it sticks there, and it stays there, and it bubbles up, creates impressions. Like a Jamil, right? What was it? What happened? He saw something and it stuck in his mind, and it created a bad impression. Then he almost went to hell. Luckily, he had some good impressions from his childhood. Being a Brahmin devotee, he had some good impressions, and he had some good inclination. He named his son Narayan. So a little deity worship could go a long way, or Hare Krishna. So whether it be attraction to the opposite sex, whether it be attraction to material opulence, attraction to people respecting us, or some type of false prestige, or whatever it may be. There's a million of them. The idea is that the more we subject our minds to the pure nature of Krishna consciousness, the more we could be protected, the more we could be free. And as time goes on, we realize, right, we gradually realize that it's important to try to eliminate things that waste time. We have a certain time frame we're working with, so it's important to try to eliminate things that waste time. There's many things that waste time. So many things waste time. Talking with people maybe we don't need to talk to, or spending time. There's so many ways to waste time. Everybody knows all the ways to waste time. Because time is ticking, as Srila Prabhupada, it's 8:20. You said it's 8:20 on September 16th, 2025. So that time is not coming back. It's here and it's gone. So say goodbye. So the more we can try to utilize our time in the best possible way, which means by engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness, the better devotees will be, the better servants of Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual master will be, and the better we could do something positive for the world. Whereas negatively, time wasted, it erodes our ability to be effective. So that's a challenge. That's the challenge. It's always been a challenge in history, and it's a challenge now. Some people question maybe it's more of a challenge now, not to waste time, which I could see. But ultimately, Krishna, he will make arrangements, as it's being stated here in the purport, that if somehow or other we are determined to be attached to this, that, so many different things, Krishna will make his proper arrangements and will remove all of those attachments so we could engage fully. So the idea is that you could say we have the choice. We either do it willingly or Krishna makes some special arrangements. So I guess ultimately both of them are good, but we could do our pick. So, okay, does anybody have any question or?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for
Hare
a nice
Krishna.
morning class.
Thank you.
And in regards to the point of dealing with lust, I was thinking if you could maybe elaborate a little bit more how going to a pilgrimage can help with that, and also how, for example, you engaged in little preaching tours, getting absorbed like that, preaching and giving yourself to that helps too.
Yeah.
With lust.
Well, yeah, there's pilgrimage, they're going on pilgrimage, there's going on preaching, tours, there's so many things. Pilgrimage is important because you go to a holy place such as Vrindavan or Mayapur or Jagannath Puri or the other 5,000 holy places in India. This Acharya appearing here, that Acharya appearing here, Nrsingadeva appearing here. So you could go to different places all over India. So going on pilgrimage helps because, if it's done properly. The idea is that one goes there and joins a solid program of Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting about Krishna with advanced Vaishnavas in a holy place. For example, you have Vaisheshika Prabhu. He gathers a whole group of young and middle-aged and old men. They go to Govardhan. They go to Govardhan and they just sit there and read for like hours. You've been there, right, Dharmesh? Oh, you haven't? Okay. I thought you had because you're one of the traveling Sankirtan boys. I haven't joined him actually, but I know devotees have joined. But they just sit there and read for like Bhagavatam all in a group for hours. Really try to get absorbed. So they're hearing and chanting in the morning, and then they're reading for many hours, and then they do some Govardhan parikrama. So it's like intensive time where they're just really focusing. And of course, it's challenging. I mean, when someone's doing that, you're fighting against the tendency to be inattentive, to think about other things. You're fighting against the tendency to sleep. You're fighting the tendency to whatever, want to be busy, do things. You're fighting against that. But in my experience, that fight, eventually there's some point where there's like, if you want to get a breaking point where you're able to kind of push beyond that and just be absorbed. So there's organized programs like that. Navadvip Mandala Parikrama, going around to all the holy places by foot. They set up tents and so on, and hearing and chanting. So there's all types of wonderful programs like that, pilgrimages. One could also go on a pilgrimage. For example, there's holy places here in America, like San Francisco. Srila Prabhupada spent a lot of time there. There's places where Srila Prabhupada, or New York City, for example, where he first started the congregational chanting of the holy names. So there's many places throughout America that Srila Prabhupada visited that are considered holy places. Go into those places and so yeah, that's important. We could also take if we cannot go physically, one could take a pilgrimage in one's mind of the holy places by looking at the pictures, by meditating on the pastimes, reading, chanting. So that's there. And yeah, preaching tours. One could preach all over San Diego, could tour San Diego, preach there, or you could go further. There's all of West Coast and surrounding states. There's a lot of need for that. There's need for book distribution. There's always new students coming to the colleges, and there's also need for the temples. My personal feeling or conviction is, I think ISKCON North America needs more with all due respect to our Indian brothers, non-Indian devotees traveling around America preaching, giving classes, distributing books, and so on. I was in Dallas and I asked, who comes here? And they said, Chaitanya Charan, Gauranga Darshan, Gauranga Prabhu, Bhakti Vaishnava Bhai Swami. They listed like 10 devotees. What's his name? Starts with an A. Amarendra. There's like 10 devotees, all from India, coming to Dallas to preach, which is fine. I mean, it's an open world. But where are the American, brahmacharis or sannyasis traveling around preaching? So, or whatever, other ethnic groups. So yeah, but traveling around preaching. So this all helps. It helps because one is engaged. That's the principle. The principle is to be engaged fully. So whether that means deity worship, whether that means cooking, whether that means cleaning, whether that means preaching events, Christian lounge, this, that, whether it means traveling and preaching, whether it means pilgrimage, the principle is to absorb one's body and one's mind as much as possible. And that liberates one, right? That's the process of devotional service. That frees one from selfish desires, working for the benefit of others. So yeah, brahmachari means they should be busy. Doesn't mean busybody running around all over the universe, but busy and hearing and chanting, busy and preaching, busy in a balanced way, busy. So I hope that helps to some degree. Any other? Okay, Naveen. We welcome Chad back. Hare Krishna, Chad. Drived all the way here, right?
I did part of our tour.
Nice. Yes, Naveen.
I had a question about, like you said, kind of the protection that comes from, I guess, seeing the deities every day and kirtan and japa. I guess I was thinking like about devotees who maybe they practice for like 20 years or something, so there's kind of protection that builds up.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I guess like how is it possible, or like what is the missing kind of piece where they might have like a really big fall down, like not just like a small fall down, but like a sannyasi, something like that.
Yeah. I remember there was this one brahmachari. He was a brahmachari for a number of years, and yeah, he had a difficulty, and I offer him all respects, and very wonderful devotee. And I won't get into the details of all that, but he was speaking with one of our friends, and the friend he was speaking to, anyways, he told our friend that, I had a realization that actually I wasn't really a brahmachari. I wasn't really meant to be a brahmachari by nature. And this friend of ours was commenting that when this person became a householder, he became a much better devotee and a much more, say, if you want to say, pleasant devotee. He was a bit harsh before and so on, and kind of frustrated desires coming out in the form of harshness. So that was his realization after quite a number of years. So he was like pushing, in a sense, in a bit of an artificial sense. So people do have natures, and sometimes, like Srila Prabhupada, he initiated so many sannyasis, but so many of them by nature were not sannyasis, and Prabhupada knew that. But it was because it was an emergency situation. These people had some desire for prestige. I'm just joking. Because these people had some desire for prestige mixed with Krishna consciousness. No, but because people had some desire to spread Krishna consciousness, to be Krishna conscious, to surrender to Prabhupada, they did it. And I'm not criticizing Prabhupada for doing that. I'm not criticizing them for doing that. They did wonderful service. But just by nature, they weren't sannyasis, and therefore they had difficulties later. They were able to pull it off for some time. So that's generally, or that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that they weren't by nature sannyasis, and later they just couldn't do it anymore. Their real nature, you could say, kind of bursted out at one point. So another thing is Vaishnava aparad, somehow or other. They maybe were offensive towards devotees, and then they're not able to continue with their Krishna consciousness. But there's many kind of reasons why. It's a long, you could give a class on that. Okay. Any last online?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Please shoot.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, I'm confused because in the translation, I read that
Yes, I have the verse here. All the aristocratic birth and other such opulence are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they're causes
Right.
of false prestige and pride. These opulence are never disturbed. They never disturb a pure devotee of Krishna. Yes.
so if aristocratic birth causes false prestige and pride, how do you explain that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna chants to Arjuna the following shloka? It goes as follows. And this is in Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6, text 41. quote, the unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. It seems that, I dare to say, that Lord Krishna is contradicting himself here.
What do you think, Mukundacharya Prabhu? You want to satisfy his inquiry?
I think Vijay Krishna, you might have an idea behind this already. May I want to see what the idea you might already have.
Well, my answer to such a question would be that in the text chosen by Balaram Prabhu for today's class, the situation is different from the sloka from Bhagavad Gita I just mentioned, because in this sloka in Bhagavad Gita, what is being mentioned is that Krishna is mentioning about the unsuccessful yogis. But in the Bhagavatam text chosen for today, that is not the case. I do believe that who is being mentioned is people in general related to the human form of life. That if you cultivate, if in general human beings are born in aristocratic families, then that could be a cause for them to become victims of false prestige and pride. So these people are not being mentioned as unsuccessful yogis. But in Bhagavad Gita verse, yes, Krishna is being very specific. He is mentioning that the unsuccessful yogis, if they're sincere, I believe, they have the right and they do deserve to be born in a family of rich aristocracy, because in the understanding of Lord Krishna, that will help them to make further progress. And this is all, and they deserve it because they're sincere practitioners. And that is not the case in the verse chosen from Srimad Bhagavatam for today's morning class. These are two different verses in relation, in the sense that two different types of people are being mentioned.
All right. You want to comment on that? You can comment on it.
We shouldn't forget that, I got this. We shouldn't forget that, I don't know how this landed here, but I use it.
Krishna's range.
That there's so many instances of very pious families who were kings. I mean, the whole, King Purigit and so many others. And so being born in aristocracy doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be overwhelmed with pride and causes false prestige.
Yeah, they can be causes.
It can be.
That's not absolute.
Yeah.
They can be, right? Just like a Brahmin can become proud of his learning and clean life and this and that, but it doesn't have to be, right? You have anything to say?
I still think that the seeming contradiction that Vijay Krishna Prabhu brings up, there's something to that. And actually, now Vijay Krishna Prabhu seemed to reconcile that by drawing a distinction between these verses, the one in Bhagavad Gita referring to the unsuccessful yogis, whereas this verse is referring to the bhaktas. But I don't think that distinction is so strong, because it seems even the way Srila Prabhupada would refer to that verse in Bhagavad Gita, he would bring that up in relation to devotees also, not just unsuccessful mystic yogis, unsuccessful jnana yogis, but also unsuccessful devotees, like even the type like Arjuna. So someone who's endeavoring in spiritual life, but then they don't fully become detached from this world, then what happens? Then they are born into an aristocratic family or a very pious family. And that just seems to be, so I don't know if that distinction really clears it up. But there does seem to be this funny thing where where you can do so many good things, clean up your life, but then if bhakti is lacking, then you get a benefit, but then that benefit can then just become another obstacle. And so that's the dangerous thing of even advancing into the mode of goodness, but when bhakti is still lacking. So for instance, you can follow bhakti, the principles of, or the instructions of bhakti yoga, and cut meat out of your life, store-bought grains out of your life, and that is good because you're cutting out sinful food out of your life, but it's also simultaneously good on a material platform. It's also healthier to cut out certain so many nasty foods which people eat when they're in the lower modes, and you automatically cut out these tamasic, and at least many tamasic and rajasic foods when you start practicing Krishna consciousness. But even if bhakti is lacking, still there's the material benefit, the good health, let's say, an improvement in health. And if bhakti is lacking, you still get that benefit, but if bhakti is lacking, that benefit can then go to your head, and that benefit can then become an obstacle in and of itself, or independently an obstacle. And so that's just the funny thing, that any lack of bhakti is dangerous. And even when you're getting the benefits of sattva gun and the benefits of the practices of bhakti, but then bhakti is lacking, then you still find yourself in kind of a more and more dangerous situation. So the same thing here. Now some devotees point out that, well, still, a different perspective, which is that an aristocratic birth is actually good for spiritual life because you aren't just struggling for existence. You have the luxury of time, luxury of not worrying about your just living, staying alive, your survival. And so so then you can focus on philosophy. You can focus on introspection and so on. Some people focus on that. And then also, just as these things can be impediments, and you see that in Kunti's prayer still, like this verse is pointing out, all of these things can then be used in service. And so Jyoti was bringing that up. It can be bad, but it could be good. So I won't say more.
So hope that satisfies you, Vijay Krishna.
No, I'm not satisfied, but because I would like to hear your answer.
Well, I deferred to them, and I'm satisfied with what they said. So I would say what they would say, or I don't have anything to add to that.
So are you quite convinced that there's no contradiction here?
Yeah, I don't think
from Lord Krishna's part.
Yeah, I don't think there's a contradiction.
Why not? And I'm asking you why not, because Mukunda Charan Prabhu speaks very fast, and it's difficult for me to understand his English. And you, on the contrary, you speak very slowly, and I congratulate you for that. So I insist on saying that I would like to hear your answer.
Can you summarize what you said?
And what Dravida Prabhu, and what Dravida Prabhu said was very helpful. That I must give thanks to Dravida Prabhu for his contribution, because it was very helpful. Still, I do need for you to tell me why
contribution was very nice.
There's no contradiction here.
So the basic idea is that you could see it different ways. That, okay, an aristocratic birth, sometimes devotees, as Bhakti Charan Prabhu was saying, they see that as a benefit because they're not just struggling with the day-to-day life, struggling to just live. They have the time, they have the energy to focus on spiritual life. I think Javeda Prabhu.
Well, I got the purport.
Okay.
Prabhu wrote for the verse that's causing confusion. So here's again the translation. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Now, this is the second paragraph. It's very short, of this short purport. The real purpose of yoga practice is to achieve highest perfection of Krishna consciousness. That includes dhyana yoga, as explained in the last verse of this chapter. But those who do not persevere to such an extent and who fall because of material allurements are allowed, by the grace of the Lord, to make full utilization of their material propensities. And after that, they are given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
So it's understood that even in the aristocratic families, they're pious, they're devotees, and so that you don't have to worry about money. So the advantage is there. It's not as good as being born into a family of pure devotees, but it helps.
Does that address the contradiction? That he's...
Yes, it does.
Okay.
In a very clarifying way. So thank you very much, Dravida Prabhu. But still, I didn't get your answer. I'm so sorry.
Now, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, are you telling me that when Dravida Prabhu says the same thing I just said, it was a great clarifying answer, but when I said it, it was not?
No, when you said it, I didn't understand it because you speak too fast, and my first language is not English, it's Portuguese. When speakers speak too fast, it's very difficult for me to understand what they're saying. On the contrary, Dravida Prabhu and Balaram Prabhu, they speak as slowly as required for someone who doesn't have as his first language, the English language, to understand what they're saying. So this is a very important fact, and allow me to say the following, the speaker for the class today, Balaram Prabhu. I do believe that some speakers on Srimad Bhagavatam do not understand at all the acronym of ISKCON related to the word, to the letter I, which means international. International means, if I may say it, that this is an international community of devotees, and if it happens for the language to be spoken most of the times to be English, could be any other language, but we all know that the international language is still English. It may change someday, we don't know. But if it is English, the speaker should understand that because this is an international community, many of the listeners do not have as their first language the English language, which is my personal case. My first language is Portuguese, and because we do not have English as our first language, the speakers on Srimad Bhagavatam or on ISKCON San Diego or on any other ISKCON temple are obliged to speak as slowly as required for us to understand what they're saying. Because if they speak too fast, we change the channel because we don't understand what they're saying. We go to a different speaker. We only stay here in the class if people speak like Balaram Prabhu, like, for example, Govardhan Prabhu, and like Dravida Prabhu. They speak as slowly as required.
And
for
Dharmasetu
us,
Prabhu.
Members of the international community of devotees
And Vijayamani
who
Prabhu.
do not have English as the first language,
And
for us to
Bhajanarayan
understand
Swami.
it.
Well, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, I must admit that is the
I'm
heaviest
sorry, Prabhu,
criticism
you speak too
I
fast.
have
You
received.
speak too fast.
I must say that's the heaviest public
And
criticism
I
I
didn't
have
understand what you
received.
say. I'm so sorry.
That is the heaviest public criticism I have received in a long time.
And And
But-
you deserve it because you insist on speaking too fast again and again and again. And we changed the channel because most of your classes I miss the content because
You want to attend his
I-
class, though, right? You want to attend
We
his class.
have noted.
I attend his classes because I am not stupid. Practice makes perfect. Even if the speaker speaks too fast, I am obliged to attend because something, at least something, even if it is only a little, I can absorb.
right.
But
I think
most
I have
of
the
the class
resolution.
is wasted.
Well, we have noted.
This is international society.
All right,
This
Vijay
is
Prabhu.
Vijay,
I think we got the
We
message.
have noted
You
that
need to stop speaking as fast as you speak. It's too much.
we have noted for a while that you boycott my classes, and that is okay. I actually think that many people online do not like my classes, and I've heard, so there's a reason why I take down my
Because you
classes
speak too
from
fast.
the internet, among other reasons. However, I must
And I
say
do not boycott your classes.
the most
I'm saying that it's difficult to understand your classes because you
Vijay,
speak too
Vijay,
fast.
But
How
one-
many times do I
one
need to
thing-
say the same?
Vijay, this is
one ironic thing is
Yes,
that
Dravida Prabhu, please, what?
just
one-
hold it. Listen.
Dravida
Just
Prabhu,
listen.
what?
Just listen now. Just
One-
listen, please.
Yes,
One
I'm listening.
last thing. One ironic thing here, which I think you will have to admit, if you play back the recording of this class, is that the fastest English speaking by far has been you. Listen to this class, see how quickly you speak the English language, and reconsider
No,
your
I'm
criticism.
not here to criticize you or for you to criticize me. I'm just trying to get an answer for my question. This is not the place for me to criticize you or for you to criticize me.
But your
I am
point
just
is
trying to
valid.
explain.
I do speak too
because,
quickly, very often,
Prabhu, said,
and so
didn't give me an answer.
I will try going
and
forward
I wanted an answer for him,
to speak
from him, and I explained
more
that the answer
slowly,
given by you,
because
Mr.
it
Prabhu, was not
is
pleasing because
very
you speak
valid
too fast. I'm not
concern
boycotting nor
when,
criticizing.
as you have said,
And how can
we
I speak
are
English too fast
trying
when my language, my first language is
have
not English.
an
Dravida Prabhu,
international
do you care to
society.
say what you're trying to say?
An international society will inevitably include many
I'm
devotees
not listening to you
who
anymore.
do not
Dravida
have
Prabhu, I'm asking Dravida Prabhu to
English
speak.
as their first language.
Dravida Prabhu has
listening to
exited
you
the
anymore.
temple. Repeat,
So, I
exited
think
the
you've
temple.
made a very,
Hare
very
Krishna.
good point.
Would you speak?
I think you've made a very good point.
Disrespectful against Dravida Prabhu. He wants to speak and I want to hear him.
You have made a very good
Dravida
point.
Prabhu,
Dravida
you
Prabhu
must
is gone.
speak.
He left the temple just now.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu,
Well,
you made a
I'm
very good
gone
point.
too.
And so I
Yes,
appreciate
I'm
that
gone.
point.
I'm gone
And
too. Hare
I-
Krishna, Jesus Christ.
Others
This is too
have
much.
mentioned this before, but no one has
Stop
mentioned this
speaking fast.
as
Stop
clearly
speaking fast. You speak
as
too fast,
you
and we don't
have.
understand what you're
Okay,
And-
saying.
all right.
So I think
Yes,
I
we
will
don't
commit this to
understand.
memory
Speak like
going forward
Balaram Prabhu, the whole
better
world.
than
Today's
any
class.
time.
You
in the
speak
past.
too fast and we don't understand
Okay,
what you
Gantrad
say.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada
Again,
ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you very
you
much.
for your very valid point, and I will really try my best going forward. I don't even mean that facetiously. I really don't mean this sarcastically. I really don't mean this facetiously, even though I do think there was something untactful about the way it was presented. But then again, I'm one to speak. I'm also very often untactful. I think there was something untactful about the way it went about today. But I think this is a very valid point, that I should consider not just if what I'm speaking is correct or reasonable, but if the people who are listening are following. This is one reason why I try not to speak to an online audience, because it's difficult enough to speak to a live audience, something that's relevant, something that I can at least make sure they can understand. When I add the internet, it's very difficult. So I'm struggling enough as it is to make sure that I'm speaking in a way that the people in the room can understand. If I add on top of that a whole online audience with so many different backgrounds, different strengths and weaknesses, it's near impossible. And I have a hard time with the criticism I get already just from the live classes that I give. Still, that's not an excuse, and I will try to speak more slowly. It's tough because people say I speak too harshly, people say I speak too softly already. And I'm trying, I'm already losing my mind trying to deal with different criticisms. But if Vijay Krishna, if you're still listening, which I think you aren't because I know you don't listen to my classes, again, valid point. I don't want to make fun of that point. It is a good point. So thank you for that point. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for nice class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.